Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're talking all about maximizing impact in everyday conversations.
Yeah, using just your words.
Your words, that's right.
So we're going to be taking a deep dive into a guide today called 15 Great Things to Say in Everyday Conversations for Guaranteed Success.
Okay,
Oh.
guaranteed success, huh?
I know, right?
A little bit much.
That title, it's it's a lot.
Can we really transform our communication with just a few phrases?
Well, that's what we're going to be exploring today, right?
Yeah, is this a bunch of BS or is this actually something?
Well, the guide focuses on simple positive phrases to build stronger connections, make conversations more enjoyable and productive.
I can see how that makes sense.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that run the risk of sounding insincere?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like we're just reading from a script.
Yeah, you don't want to sound robotic or anything.
Right.
But it's more about the intention behind the words.
Okay.
Like, think about it.
Yeah.
When someone asks you, how are you today? But you can tell they're not really listening. It feels impersonal, right?
Cold.
So it's all about being present in the moment.
Okay, so you're saying like...
Contact, listen attentively, be genuinely curious.
So it's not the words themselves. It's more about just being an active listener.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the guide suggests phrases like, that's a great point, or could you tell me more about that?
So just acknowledging what someone is saying can go a long way.
Yeah, it shows you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, you're
Right.
actually engaged.
It makes them feel heard.
Yeah, and that can deepen the connection between people.
You know, that actually reminds me of a conversation I had recently with a friend who was telling me about their trip to Italy.
Oh, nice.
And they mentioned something that just sounded really interesting.
Okay.
And I just said, could you tell me more about that?
Yeah.
And it just opened up this whole conversation.
And what happened?
It was amazing. They just lit up and told me all these incredible details about food, the art, the people they met. It went from like a simple exchange to like this really memorable conversation.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I really think that just that one question just like made all the difference.
Yeah, so a well-placed question can unlock a treasure trove of information.
That's a great way to put it, a treasure trove.
Yeah.
But I do want to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay, sure.
Couldn't these phrases also be used manipulatively?
Yeah, you're...
But what if someone is just trying to sound more likable to get something they want?
Well, I think most people are pretty good at detecting when someone is being fake.
Okay, so authenticity is key here.
Right, exactly.
All right, so we've talked about active listening, asking engaging questions.
Yes.
But the guide also talks about validation and appreciation. Things like, I appreciate your help, or I trust your judgment.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Those convey a deeper level of respect, right?
Yeah, like you're acknowledging the other person's expertise.
Their autonomy. So again, it's not just saying the words, it's about understanding the deeper impact of those words.
Absolutely.
Like when you tell someone, I trust your judgment, it really empowers them.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where someone said that to you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What happened?
I remember when I was trying to choose between two job offers,
Oh, wow, yeah.
and one of my mentors said those exact words to me, and it really gave me the confidence to make a decision.
So simple words can have a profound impact.
Totally.
But do you ever find it awkward to use these phrases?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
And that's where I think practice comes in.
absolutely.
It's not about becoming a robot.
No.
It's about incorporating these phrases into our natural communication style.
Right, and I think that's what makes this so fascinating. We're not just learning a set of magic words.
Right.
We're actually exploring human interaction.
Okay, so we've talked about active listening,
Yeah.
asking engaging questions, expressing validation and appreciation. Seems like we're building a foundation for better conversations.
They are.
Now, as we move forward, we're going to be getting into empathy and support. And I'm curious to hear if any of these ideas resonate with you so far.
Yeah, me too. Have you had any experiences where a simple phrase made a difference in a conversation?
You know, that's a great question, and I'm sure our listeners have some stories to share as well, but we'll have to save that for later. So we talked about active listening, asking insightful questions, and expressing validation. But I'm curious about offering empathy and support.
Yeah, for sure. And the guide highlights phrases like, I completely understand. That must have been difficult. And I'm proud of you.
You know, I can see how those phrases can be really helpful, but I'm also wary of saying, I completely understand.
Yeah.
When I don't fully grasp what someone is going through.
Yeah. I totally get it.
It almost feels presumptuous.
It's about acknowledging their feelings, even if you can't relate to their specific situation.
Okay, so it's more about validating their emotions than claiming to have walked in their shoes.
Exactly.
I think sometimes we're so afraid of saying the wrong thing that we end up saying nothing at all.
Yeah, and silence can sometimes be interpreted as indifference.
Right.
Even a simple phrase like, "I'm here for you," can be incredibly powerful.
You know, that phrase reminds me of a time when I was going through a really tough breakup, and a friend of mine just sat with me and listened patiently.
Oh, wow.
And at one point she just said, "I'm here for you."
And how did that make you feel?
You know, it was so simple, but it meant the world to me.
It's a reminder that you're not alone in your struggles.
Exactly.
You know what's interesting is that empathy actually has a neurological basis.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that empathy isn't just a feeling?
No.
It's an actual phenomenon.
Yeah, our brains actually mirror the emotions that we see.
So when we see someone experiencing an emotion, our brains are kind of experiencing that same emotion.
On a neurological level, yeah.
That's fascinating.
And that's why expressions of empathy can be so powerful in building trust.
So we're literally on the same wavelength.
Yeah, you could say that.
Now I'm wondering, can we train ourselves to become more empathetic?
You know, research suggests that we can.
Wow. So by using these phrases,
Uh-huh.
we're not just improving our communication, but actually rewiring our brains?
It's a win-win.
And now that I think about it, the title of this guide, Guaranteed Success, still feels strong, but I can see how using these phrases consistently can lead to more positive outcomes.
Well, the success isn't about getting what you want from every conversation.
Right.
It's about having healthier relationships and becoming a better communicator.
Well, the guide also talks about compliments and encouragement.
Oh, yeah.
Phrases like, "You're really good at that. You handled that really well. You've made a lot of progress."
Those are great examples, but just like we talked about earlier, authenticity is key.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be genuine in your praise.
No backhanded compliments
No.
or forced compliments.
Yeah, and you also want to tailor the compliment to the person you're talking to.
That's a good point. Some people don't like to be praised publicly.
They might find it embarrassing. So it's all about reading the room.
I'm thinking about the phrase, "You've made a lot of progress."
Uh-huh.
That one seems really effective when someone's working hard to improve.
It acknowledges their effort and encourages them to keep going.
Exactly like when you were first learning to play the piano.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you play the piano?
I dabble. I'm certainly no concert pianist.
But you remember struggling with a difficult piece.
Yeah, and my teacher said to me, "You've made a lot of progress."
Yeah.
It kept me motivated to keep practicing.
So it's those little moments that can make a big difference.
Right. Whether it's learning a new skill, navigating a personal challenge, or just getting through a tough day.
So communication isn't just about conveying information.
No.
It's also about building connections,
Yeah.
fostering trust,
Uh-huh.
and inspiring each other.
Exactly.
So the 15 phrases for guaranteed success might not guarantee success,
Uh-huh.
but it highlights how small changes in our communication can have a big impact.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about active listening, empathy, compliments.
We have.
But there's one last piece of the puzzle I want to discuss, and that's practice.
Yeah, practice is essential, just like any skill.
We're not going to magically become master conversationalists overnight.
No, it takes time and effort.
So it's about incorporating these phrases into our daily lives.
Yeah, what if you picked one or two phrases from the guide each week?
I love that idea.
And just focus on using them.
It's like a little experiment.
It is.
And who knows, maybe by the end of this deep dive, our listeners will have their own set of phrases that they like to use.
That would be great, because ultimately the goal is to use language in a way that feels authentic to you.
So what are some of the phrases that you personally find most effective?
Well, I'm a naturally curious person, so I often find myself using phrases like, well, like I was saying, I'm a naturally curious person.
Right.
So I often find myself using phrases like, "Tell me more about that," or "That's really interesting, could you elaborate?"
I like those.
It helps me stay engaged and learn more about the other person.
And it shows that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say.
Exactly.
So it's like we're not just talking at each other. We're actually having a dialogue.
We're building that connection.
I love it. And I think that's what makes communication so fascinating.
It's complex.
It's this dance between listening, speaking, understanding, and responding.
It's more than just words.
It's about creating a space where both people feel comfortable and respected.
So when we use phrases like "the ones in this guide," We're setting the stage for more authentic and meaningful conversations.
Yeah, and I think that's a much better definition of guaranteed success.
It's not about manipulating people.
Right.
It's about fostering genuine connections.
And I think that's something we can all strive for.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this exploration of everyday phrases,
What are some key takeaways that our listeners can implement in their own lives?
well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that we all have the power to make a positive impact through our words.
I agree with that.
It's not about being a perfect communicator.
Yeah.
It's about being mindful and present in our interactions.
And being willing to practice.
Exactly. And remember, this deep dive is just the beginning.
It is.
The real learning happens when we start putting these ideas into practice.
And I have a feeling that if we all make a conscious effort to use our words more thoughtfully,
We can create a ripple effect of positivity.
and that's something worth striving for.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, keep those conversations flowing and those connections strong.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into something exciting today.
And to words.
Words, that's right. 25 of them, actually,
That's right.
that can seriously boost your communication skills.
Yeah. Make you a much more powerful communicator.
Yeah. And our source this time is this video, and it's titled, "If You Know These 25 Words, Your English is Excellent."
Bold.
Yeah, it's a little bold, but you know what? I like it. Let's aim high.
Let's go for it.
So how does this video break down these 25 words?
Well, it starts by grouping them. And the first group is all about sharp thinking, words like articulate, astute, and perceptive.
Okay, so articulate I use all the time. When someone's a good communicator.
Yeah.
Astute and perceptive, though. Are those just synonyms for articulate? What's going on there?
They're definitely in the same family, but there are some subtle differences. Articulate is really excelling at expressing yourself clearly, effectively, often in a verbal or written form. So you think of a skilled debater or writer who crafts beautiful prose.
Okay, I'm with you. So where do astute and perceptive fit into that?
So astute goes a bit deeper, I would say. It implies a sharpness of judgment, an ability to grasp complex situations and draw insightful conclusions. So it's not just communication, it's the thought process behind it.
So you could be articulate without being astute, but not the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could have an astute person who's not the most eloquent speaker, but their insights would be incredibly valuable.
Interesting.
Yeah, in decision-making or problem-solving.
So perceptive. I always think of that as picking up on those subtle cues.
That's a great way to put it. A perceptive person is highly attuned to their surroundings and the people around them, noticing details others miss, and often they have a knack for understanding underlying motivations.
So it kind of goes hand in hand with astute, but more observation and intuition, less analysis.
Yeah, precisely. And in many situations, being perceptive can be just as valuable as being astute. So think of a therapist who can pick up on a client's unspoken emotions, or a detective who notices tiny clues at a crime scene.
So we've got articulate for expressing yourself clearly, astute for insightful thinking, and perceptive for that keen observation. Seems like these words are pretty helpful in any field
Oh, yeah.
where communication and understanding are key.
Absolutely. Whether you're a lawyer crafting a persuasive argument, or a scientist interpreting data, or a teacher explaining a complex concept, these are qualities that can really help you excel.
This is already making me rethink how I describe people. I'm
Yeah.
going to be a lot more specific with my word choices going forward.
I love it. Yeah.
So speaking of precision, the source's next category focuses on effort and impact. Words like conscientious, diligent, fastidious, and meticulous, they all seem to relate to being detail-oriented. Am I on the right track?
Yes, you are. They all imply a certain level of care and attention to detail, but there are definitely shades of meaning that are worth exploring.
Okay, break it down for me. What are the key differences?
So let's start with conscientious and diligent. Both suggest a strong work ethic and a commitment to thoroughness. Someone who's conscientious is guided by a strong sense of duty and responsibility, takes their work seriously, and strives to do their best.
I can definitely relate to that. I like to think I'm a conscientious worker, but sometimes I struggle with procrastination.
Well, that's where diligent comes in. Diligence is all about consistent effort and perseverance. It's about sticking with a task even when it gets challenging or tedious.
So diligent is more action, conscientious, more attitude.
That's such a good way to think about it. They often go hand in hand, of course.
What about fastidious and meticulous?
Yeah.
Just ramp up the detail-oriented factor.
It do, but in slightly different ways. Meticulous suggests a very precise and careful approach, often involving a lot of planning and organization. Think of a surgeon carefully mapping out every step of a complex procedure.
So meticulous equals systematic and thorough. Fastidious, though, the source gives the example of being fastidious about cleanliness.
Yeah.
It seems like it goes beyond just being tidy.
You're right. Fastidious suggests a level of attention to detail that borders on perfectionism. Often implies a strong dislike of anything messy, imperfect, or out of place.
So a fastidious person might be meticulous in their work, but they might also be very particular about their appearance, their home, even their hobbies. It's like an all-encompassing attention to detail.
Exactly. Now, the important thing to remember is that these words aren't inherently good or bad.
Oh, interesting.
Being meticulous can be a great asset in certain professions, but it can also lead to procrastination or analysis paralysis if taken to an extreme.
Right. It's all about finding that balance and understanding the context.
Right, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not just about learning definitions, it's about understanding the nuances of language and how we can use these words effectively to express ourselves.
So to recap, we have conscientious for a strong sense of duty, diligent for consistent effort, meticulous for systematic thoroughness, and fastidious for a near-obsessive level of attention to detail. I'm realizing how much power lies in choosing the right word.
Absolutely.
And we're just getting started.
I know, right?
The next group of words is all about powerful communication. Words like eloquent, galvanize, and ineffable. Are you ready to dive in?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. Let's explore how these words can help us become more persuasive and impactful communicators. All right, so let's unpack these powerful communication words. Eloquent, galvanize, and ineffable, each packing quite a punch.
I'm intrigued already. Eloquent always makes me think of like a speaker, who can hold an audience spellbound, like they're weaving magic with their words.
Yes. Eloquent describes someone who can express themselves with such grace, clarity, and persuasion that they just captivate their listeners. It's not just about choosing like fancy words, it's about using language to create a powerful emotional connection.
So I see there's a difference there. Someone could use a lot of big words without actually being eloquent if their message isn't clear or engaging.
Exactly.
It's the whole package.
Yeah.
Words, delivery, passion.
Totally.
So how would you say galvanize differs from eloquent? They both seem to involve influencing people.
That's a good question. If eloquent is about captivating an audience, I think galvanize goes a step further and inspires them to take action.
Okay.
It's about sparking a fire,
Yeah.
motivating people to do something.
Yeah.
So think of a political leader who rallies their supporters to fight for a cause, or a coach who gives a pep talk that ignites their team's determination.
Okay.
Galvanize is about transforming words into action.
Powerful stuff. All right, ineffable. That one always throws me off a bit.
Yeah.
What's so powerful about a word that means beyond words?
That's the paradox, right? Ineffable points to the limits of language. Those experiences or emotions that are so profound, so overwhelming, that words can't capture their full essence.
Like trying to describe the feeling of awe when you look up at a starry night sky.
Yes.
Or the overwhelming joy of holding your newborn child for the first time.
Exactly.
Words just don't seem big enough.
Words aren't big enough. And by acknowledging the limits of language, ineffable actually adds to the power of our communication. It creates a sense of mystery, of something too grand to be fully grasped.
Okay, so we've got eloquence for captivating, galvanizing for inspiring action, and ineffable for acknowledging the indescribable. What a range.
Yeah.
So the next two words on our list are fortuitous and serendipitous, both dealing with chance and good fortune.
Right.
I find myself using lucky all the time.
Yeah.
Do these words offer us a more nuanced way to describe those moments of good fortune?
They do, yeah. They both involve positive, unplanned events, but there's a subtle distinction. Fortuitous simply means happening by chance, especially in a way that's beneficial. So it could be a chance encounter that leads to a new job opportunity or winning a lottery you forgot you entered.
Just plain luck.
Yeah.
Where does serendipitous come in then?
Serendipitous adds a layer of pleasant surprise and unexpected discovery. It's not just that something good happened, but that you stumbled upon it without even looking for it. So think of finding a rare antique at a flea market or meeting your soulmate while on vacation.
Oh, like the universe is conspiring in your favor,
right.
even though...
This is what makes serendipity so delightful and memorable.
This makes me think of when I was browsing in a used bookstore and I stumbled upon a first edition of my favorite author's book. I wasn't even looking for it.
Perfect example.
Felt like fate. So tenacious and resilient.
Right.
I see these words used a lot to describe successful people, those who don't give up easily.
Yes.
Can bounce back from setbacks. What are the key differences there?
So tenacious emphasizes persistence and determination. It's about holding firmly to your goals and refusing to give up, even in the face of obstacles. Think of an athlete who trains relentlessly to overcome an injury, or an entrepreneur who faces rejection after rejection, but never gives up on their dream.
That never say die spirit. Right? Inner drive that keeps people going when others might give up.
Exactly. Now, resilient is about the ability to bounce back from adversity.
Okay.
It's about adaptability and flexibility, being able to bend without breaking. Think of someone who loses their job, but quickly picks themselves up, learns new skills, and finds a new path.
So tenacious is pushing forward despite challenges, while resilient is adapting to change and bouncing back from setbacks.
Exactly. And both qualities are essential for navigating the ups and downs of life.
You know, I'm realizing that some of these words, like tenacious and resilient, aren't just descriptive, they're aspirational.
Yes.
They represent qualities that we can cultivate in ourselves.
That's a great observation. Learning these words isn't just about expanding our vocabulary, it's about expanding our understanding of human potential and striving to embody these qualities in our own lives.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground.
I know, right?
We still have a few more words to explore, though. What's next on our list?
Well, we've talked a lot about communication and personal qualities. Let's shift gears a bit and focus on words that describe different aspects of experience and knowledge.
Sounds good to me. So what kind of words are we looking at now?
Well, we've got prolific, which describes someone who produces a large amount of work, creates many things.
Ah, prolific. This makes me think of like authors who seem to publish a new book every year, or artists who create a constant stream of paintings and sculptures.
Yeah.
Like their creativity is a never-ending fountain.
Exactly. And being prolific often goes hand in hand with the qualities we discussed earlier, like diligence and meticulousness.
Right.
It takes a lot of effort and dedication to produce such a large volume of high-quality work.
That makes me think of Mozart, composed hundreds of musical masterpieces in his short lifetime.
Incredible.
It's mind-boggling how
Yeah.
some people can be so incredibly productive.
Yeah, it really is inspiring. And speaking of inspiration, another word on our list is exemplary, which describes someone who sets a great example or serves as a role model.
Okay, so this makes me think of teachers who go above and beyond to inspire their students.
Yeah.
Leaders who embody the values they preach.
Yes.
It's about actions speaking louder than words.
Precisely. An exemplary person not only sets a high standard for themselves, but also inspires others to strive for excellence.
Okay, I'm curious about succinct. I know it means being concise and to the point.
Yeah.
But why is that so important?
Well, in a world overflowing with information, being able to communicate clearly and efficiently is more valuable than ever.
Okay.
Succinct describes that ability to get your message across without unnecessary words or rambling explanations.
So many situations where that would be helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Writing emails, giving presentations,
Oh, yeah.
having everyday conversations. Even
Oh, yeah.
nobody wants to listen to someone just drone on and on.
No, they don't.
So being succinct shows respect for your audience's time and attention.
It does.
It's about making every word count.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to be more succinct
I think you should.
going forward. I think it will make a difference.
I think it will too.
All right, so the last word on our list is nostalgic, which describes a longing for the past, often associated with happy memories.
Nostalgia. I think we all experience that feeling from time to time, whether it's triggered by a song, a scent, or a photograph.
It's like taking a trip down memory lane.
Exactly. Nostalgia can be a powerful emotion. It connects us to our past and reminds us of the people, places, and experiences that have shaped who we are.
It's funny how even seemingly insignificant things can trigger a wave of nostalgia, like the smell of freshly baked cookies that reminds you of your grandmother's kitchen, or the sound of rain that takes you back to your childhood bedroom.
It's those little sensory details that can transport us back in time and evoke a flood of emotions.
Yeah.
Nostalgia can be bittersweet, of course, because it often reminds us of things that are gone, but it can also be a source of comfort and joy,
Yeah.
helping us to appreciate the richness of our lives.
Well said. This deep dive into the world of words has been fascinating. It's amazing how much nuance and power can be packed into a single word.
It is.
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power of language, I'm definitely going to be paying much closer attention to the words I use and the words I hear from now on.
That's great. That's what we want.
Well, I want to thank you for taking us on this journey of linguistic discovery.
My pleasure.
I feel like I've learned so much.
I'm glad.
To our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to expand your own vocabulary and discover the power of words.
Remember, learning new words is an ongoing process.
It is.
So keep exploring, keep reading, keep listening, and most importantly, keep using those words in your everyday life.
Absolutely. And as a final thought-provoking question for our listeners, which word from today's deep dive resonated with you the most? And how will you try to incorporate it into your communication this week? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, happy wordsmithing.
All right, so let's ditch the whole learn English for work thing.
Yeah.
We're going deeper
Way deeper.
into all the unexpected benefits of mastering English.
Right.
Stuff that even like seasoned learners, might find pretty surprising.
For sure.
And our source for this deep dive is this really insightful excerpt
Okay.
called Why You Shouldn't Learn English Just for Work. So get ready for some serious aha moments.
Yeah. It's fascinating how much we box in language learning. It's not just about resumes and stuff. It's like a cognitive upgrade that impacts every corner of your life.
Oh, wow.
Literally rewiring your brain.
Really?
Yeah. Studies show that bilinguals, they have enhanced attention control and stuff, which is a game changer, even for, say, a computer programmer.
That's mind-blowing.
Right.
I always knew that learning a new language was good for you.
Yeah.
But I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, and the source breaks it down by skill level,
Okay.
which I find incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Even at the beginner level, those small wins, like ordering food while you're abroad or taking a basic online course in English.
Yeah.
Those are huge.
So you're saying even those baby steps can have a big impact?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Think about it. You're not just memorizing phrases.
Right.
You're engaging with the world more directly.
That's true.
What stands out to you about that early stage of learning?
Well, I think it's that feeling of independence.
Yes.
Suddenly you're not relying on someone else to translate everything for you.
Ah.
You know you're in control.
You are.
It's easy to forget that when you're struggling with verb conjugations.
Exactly. And the source highlights how as you hit that intermediate level,
Okay.
things really open up. You can dive into global online communities.
Right.
Understand your favorite English language shows without subtitles.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a whole new level of connection.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this goes way beyond just the typical career advice.
Right. You're not just learning English. You're opening up these new avenues for personal growth.
Totally.
You're participating, not just passively consuming. And as you progress, imagine engaging in nuanced conversations.
Wow.
Debating ideas, forming relationships with people from all walks of life.
That's amazing.
The confidence boost alone is transformative.
The source mentions confidence quite a bit.
Yeah.
What's the connection there?
Well, think about it. Learning a language is challenging.
Yeah, for sure.
Every step forward from mastering a tricky grammar rule to holding a conversation,
Right.
it proves to yourself that you can tackle tough stuff.
Yeah.
It builds resilience, a growth mindset.
Right.
And that's valuable in any pursuit, not just language.
That's a great point. It's like that I can climb a mountain feeling,
Yeah,
but for your brain.
exactly.
And speaking of mountains, the source dives into travel,
Yeah.
which I know is a huge motivator for many language learners.
While travel is definitely a common motivator,
Right.
the source argues that it's the independence gained that's truly transformative.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I totally agree. Anyone can follow a tour guide around.
Yeah.
But imagine exploring a new city, striking up conversations with locals, discovering hidden gems off the beaten path, all because you can communicate confidently.
Yeah.
That's a different level of experience entirely.
It's about going beyond the surface, experiencing a culture on a deeper level,
Right.
not just observing it from a tourist's perspective.
And that ties back to the confidence we were talking about.
Right.
You're not just a tourist anymore, you're a traveler, an explorer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're empowered to shape your own experience.
I like that.
And the source emphasizes that feeling of empowerment throughout,
Yeah.
at every skill level.
That's so interesting. It's like language learning is this secret weapon for personal growth,
Yeah,
but most people only see the tip of the iceberg.
exactly. And we're just getting started.
Oh, wow.
What really grabbed my attention was the source's focus on going beyond the practical benefits
Okay.
and diving into the realm of personal growth and broader perspectives.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Tell me more.
Well, it talks about developing empathy
Ah.
by understanding different cultures' viewpoints,
Yeah,
which is crucial in our increasingly interconnected world.
right. It's one thing to read about a different culture,
Hmm.
but it's another thing entirely to connect with someone from that culture.
Absolutely.
Understand their perspective and see the world through their eyes.
Yeah,
That's real understanding.
absolutely. And the source links this directly to personal growth,
Okay.
becoming more adaptable, more open-minded,
Right.
more well-rounded as a person.
This is way more profound than I expected.
Right.
We've gone from ordering food to literally expanding our worldview.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on the educational benefits yet.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's dive into that. What does the source say about education? I think we often forget that language opens up access to a whole world of knowledge.
It's a gateway, like you said,
Yeah.
even at a basic level, being able to follow simple instructions
Uh-huh.
or understand like a basic online course,
Right.
that can be eye-opening.
You know, that reminds me of a friend who learned just enough English to take an online photography course.
Wow.
And it sparked this whole passion he never knew he had.
Yeah,
He's now winning awards for his photography.
that's incredible.
I know, it's amazing.
It's amazing how something as simple as understanding instructions
Right.
can snowball into something so significant.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is how the source emphasizes that this educational benefit scales as your fluency grows.
So what happens when you move beyond the beginner stage?
Imagine this, you're at the intermediate level.
Okay.
You can now attend international webinars,
Hmm?
participate in workshops led by experts from around the world.
Right.
It completely changes the game,
You're not just learning English anymore.
right?
You're learning about any topic that interests you.
Yeah,
Taught by the best in the field.
exactly. And for those who achieve an advanced level,
Okay.
the possibilities become even more vast.
Like what?
Think about applying for international scholarships,
Yeah.
studying at top universities in English-speaking countries.
Talk about a life-changing opportunity.
Right.
But even if you're not aiming for academia, the access to information itself is incredible. You're not limited to resources in your native language anymore.
That's a point the source really drives home. You can read research papers, articles, books,
Right.
all in their original language.
Wow.
It removes a layer of interpretation
Yeah.
and allows you to engage with information directly.
It's like getting a backstage pass to the world of knowledge.
Exactly.
So we've covered communication, confidence, travel, personal growth, education.
Yeah.
What else is there?
There's one more point I want to highlight.
Okay.
And it's something that really resonated with me. The source discusses how learning English can help you become a more informed and engaged global citizen.
Okay, now that's a powerful statement.
Right.
Tell me more.
Think about it. You're no longer limited to news sources or opinions in your native language.
Right.
You can access information from various perspectives,
Yeah.
form your own opinions based on a wider range of viewpoints.
It's so easy to get trapped in your own little bubble,
It is.
especially with the way news is curated these days.
Right.
Breaking free from that echo chamber and seeing different sides of a story
Yeah.
feels incredibly important.
That's precisely what the source is getting at.
Hmm.
It's about developing critical thinking skills,
Right.
discerning fact from fiction,
Uh-huh.
and understanding the complexities of global issues.
So I'm seeing now how all of these benefits connect.
Yeah.
It starts with basic communication,
Mm-hmm.
then builds confidence,
Mm-hmm.
opens doors to travel and education,
Right.
broadens perspectives, and ultimately empowers you to engage with the world on a whole new level.
That's the beautiful journey this excerpt takes us on.
Yeah.
It dismantles the limited view of language learning as just a career tool
Right.
and reveals its potential to transform our lives from the inside out.
This has been a real eye-opener.
Hasn't it?
I'm starting to think of fluency in English less like a skill to acquire
Mm-hmm.
and more like a key to unlocking a whole new version of myself.
And to think we're just scratching the surface here.
Wow.
There's so much more to uncover. So much potential for growth and discovery.
Honestly, I'm blown away by how much deeper this topic goes than I initially thought.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And to our listener out there, I'd say buckle up because this deep dive is about to get really personal. Okay, so we've covered like a ton of ground here, but
yeah.
what does it all really mean? For you, our listener,
Right.
what's the big takeaway here?
Well, the key takeaway for me is this: don't limit your thinking about learning English.
Uh-huh.
It's not just a box to check on your resume
No.
or a tool for navigating tourist traps.
It's a catalyst for personal transformation, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about expanding your world,
Yeah.
both literally and figuratively, pushing beyond your comfort zone and embracing new possibilities.
And the best part is it's never too late to start.
Never.
No matter where you are in life, what your current skill level is,
Right.
there's always something new to learn and discover.
Exactly. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a step towards a richer, more fulfilling life.
This excerpt really hammered home the point that learning English is an investment in yourself,
Yeah.
an investment in your future.
An investment that pays dividends in ways you might never have imagined.
Okay, I have to ask.
Yeah.
If fluency in English could unlock one door in your life right now, which would you choose and why?
That's a great question. I think for me, it would be the ability to delve deeper into different cultures
Okay.
through their literature and films,
Wow.
to experience those stories in their original language
Right.
without any filters or translations.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful. And it speaks to the heart of what we've been discussing today.
Yeah.
This idea of connecting with the world on a deeper level.
It's about understanding, appreciating, and embracing the richness and diversity of human experience.
Well said. I feel like we've really cracked open this topic and uncovered so many hidden gems.
We have.
I know.
And this is just the beginning.
Right.
I encourage you, our listener, to keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing those boundaries.
There's a whole world of knowledge, experiences, and connections out there waiting to be discovered.
So go forth and learn, my friends.
Yes.
Embrace the journey and see where it takes you.
Until next time. Okay, picture this. You've just gotten off the plane in London. You're jet lagged, but that smell of coffee is calling your name.
Oh, yeah.
You wander into this cute little cafe, but you want to order like a local, not just another tourist with a phrase book.
Right.
So that's where this deep dive comes in.
Yeah.
We've got all these articles and tips about mastering coffee shop interactions in English.
It really is amazing how these small little chats can really open up a whole new world when you're learning a language.
Absolutely.
It's not even just about the coffee, it's about connecting with the culture and feeling more confident.
So let's get into it. We have articles on vocab regional slang, even a study on the psychology of ordering. Where do we even begin?
Well, we got to start with a strong foundation, right?
Yeah.
And, we tend to forget that even basic vocabulary can tell us a lot about a culture.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like take the flat white, for example.
I've seen that on menus. But I'm always a little afraid to ask what it is.
Yeah, so basically it's a double shot of espresso with just a tiny bit of steamed milk on top. Okay.
It's super popular in Australia and New Zealand. And, that tells us a lot about their coffee culture, right? They're all about that strong espresso flavor, and there's this huge emphasis on the texture of that microphone.
So it's not just about knowing the words, it's about understanding where they come from.
Right.
That makes sense.
Like, the difference between asking for a large coffee and realizing that at Starbucks, you got to order a venti.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've definitely been in situations where I've used the wrong word for sizes and I felt so awkward.
Right. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah,
But being aware of those little differences can help you blend in a little more.
for sure.
And while we're talking about variations, let's get into the world of modifiers.
Oh, man. Those can be tricky. I remember once I tried to order a decaf soy latte in New York. It was so busy and loud, and I ended up with something totally different.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was a mess. That's why knowing how to use those modifiers confidently is so important. It's not even just about getting your order right, it's about feeling good expressing what you want. Imagine you're in a London coffee shop, it's freezing outside, and you're craving a soy latte extra hot. How would you order that?
Let's see, could I please have a soy latte extra hot?
Nailed it. You sound like you've been living in London for years.
Why try?
And don't be afraid to ask questions if you're not sure about something.
Right, like if I see a drink on the menu and I have no idea what it is, I can just ask.
Exactly. You could say, what's in a cortado?
Yeah.
And chatting with the barista helps you get your order right, but it also adds a little local flavor to the whole experience.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of vocab and modifiers. What about those phrases that really make you sound like you belong?
Oh, there are some classics that can make things go a lot smoother. Could I please have? It's always a polite and safe bet.
I tend to use I'd like a, it feels a bit more direct to me.
Yeah, and that's great too. It shows confidence.
Okay, cool.
So you've got your base, and then you add those modifiers on top.
Like building blocks.
Exactly. And the more you practice saying these phrases out loud, the easier it gets.
Okay, so we've got the vocab, the key phrases down. Now, how do we actually connect with the coffee shop culture, not just order and leave?
That's where the magic of small talk comes in.
I don't know, small talk can feel a little superficial sometimes.
Yeah, I get that, but small talk serves a different purpose depending on where you are in the world.
Hmm.
In a lot of English-speaking cultures, it's all about showing politeness, easing into a conversation.
So it's more about the social interaction than the topic itself.
Right, and you'd be surprised how much you can learn about a culture just by paying attention to the way people do small talk.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like in some cultures, talking about the weather might seem boring, but in the UK, it's practically a national sport.
Okay, so if I'm in a London coffee shop and it's raining cats and dogs outside, I could say something like, wow, this weather is wild.
Exactly. And they might say, oh, tell me about it. Typical British weather, though. See, you've just started a whole conversation.
Right.
It's amazing how a little comment like that can lead to so much. And it's not just about talking to strangers. You can use small talk with the barista, too. Just a simple, how's your day going, can make things feel more personal.
I like that. It feels more human.
Exactly. It's all about building those little connections, even if they're brief.
Right. So we've got the vocabulary, the ordering phrases, and now the art of small talk. What else do we need to know to really master the coffee shop scene?
Well, there's this whole other layer of communication that's happening beyond the words we speak.
You mean like the unspoken rules, the etiquette?
Exactly. Those unspoken rules can be tough to figure out, especially in a new culture.
Yeah, for sure. Like personal space, I've definitely been in some crowded coffee shops where I felt like I was on top of the person next to me.
Oh yeah, personal space is a big one, and it's different everywhere. But in a lot of English-speaking countries, it's polite to give people some breathing room.
So if I'm at a table, I shouldn't spread out all my stuff like I own the place.
Good rule of thumb. And if you're waiting in line, try not to crowd the person in front of you.
Right. It's all about being considerate, even when it's busy.
Exactly. What about noise level? I've noticed some coffee shops are super loud and others are really quiet.
Yeah. How do you know what the vibe is? I don't want to be that person yelling on my phone in a silent cafe.
It's all about looking around, Pay attention to how loud people are talking and adjust your volume accordingly.
And if I need to take a call, I should probably step outside.
Right. Just be respectful of everyone around you. Now, speaking of sharing space, let's talk about working or studying in a coffee shop.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Coffee shops are like a second office for a lot of people.
Totally. But there are definitely some unspoken rules there.
Like, if you're going to be there for a while, you should probably buy more than just one coffee.
Right. You don't want to hog a table all day and only spend a couple of dollars.
Makes sense. What about laptops and stuff?
Yeah, be mindful of the volume on your devices. Nobody wants to hear your music or your keyboard clicking away.
And if it's crowded, try to keep your stuff contained.
Exactly. Sharing is caring. Actually, one of our sources mentions a study about how noise affects productivity.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so basically they found that certain kinds of noise, like loud conversations or sudden sounds, can be super distracting.
Okay.
But consistent, quiet background noise, like the coffee machine or soft music, can actually help people focus.
That's probably why you get so much work done in coffee shops.
Right. It's that perfect balance.
Okay, so we've talked about the spoken and the unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, from how to order to cultural nuances and even workspace etiquette. But I'm curious, how does this all go beyond just getting a cup of coffee? How does it connect to language learning and feeling more comfortable in a new culture?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's something we forget about a lot. We get so focused on learning vocab and grammar that we forget why we're doing it in the first place. Language is about connecting with people and experiencing the world in a different way.
You're right. I've had times where I've messed up words or pronounced things wrong, but the person I was talking to was so nice about it. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about the connection.
Exactly. Those are the moments that make language learning come alive. You realize it's about the human interaction, the shared moments, not just about getting the words right.
So how do we encourage our listeners to really embrace those moments, to get out of their comfort zone and really experience the culture?
I think it starts with a change in mindset. Instead of seeing language learning as something you have to do, see it as an adventure.
I love that.
A way to explore new places, connect with different people.
With rating in your textbook for a plane ticket.
Exactly. And coffee shops are the perfect place to start these adventures.
Yeah.
They're like these little mini cultures where you can observe, interact, and practice your language skills in a safe space.
So don't just grab your coffee and go. Take a moment to really be there.
Right. Listen to the conversations happening around you. Notice how people are interacting.
Yeah, it's like a mini ethnography project.
Exactly. And if you feel up to it, don't be afraid to start a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
It could be the barista, someone at another table, even the person in line behind you.
You never know what you might learn.
And even if it's just a quick chat, it's still a chance to practice your skills and connect with someone from a different background.
It's amazing how these little interactions can be so meaningful.
Right. Like each conversation is a window into another world.
So we've talked about the spoken and unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, the importance of small talk, and how these everyday encounters can help us understand language and culture better. What else can we give our listeners to help them navigate all this with confidence?
I think it's important to address the fear of making mistakes. A lot of people are afraid to speak up because they think they'll say the wrong thing.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been there. I totally chickened out of speaking because I was scared of messing up.
It happens. But remember, making mistakes is part of learning.
Like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times before you get it.
Exactly. Same goes for language. Embrace those awkward moments. Those times when you feel like you're fumbling over your words. It's all part of the journey.
And a lot of times people are more understanding than we think.
Totally. Most people appreciate when you try to speak their language. They're not going to focus on every little grammar mistake.
So instead of getting down on yourself for making mistakes, see them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. Each mistake is a chance to get better and build your confidence.
And sometimes those mistakes lead to the best stories.
Absolutely. Some of my favorite language learning memories are those times when I totally messed up or misunderstood something. They're the stories that make you laugh and teach you something new about the culture.
So to everyone listening, embrace the mistakes, laugh at the awkward moments, and celebrate the small wins.
Because the journey of language learning is just as important as the destination. And hey, you might even discover a hidden talent for comedy along the way.
Speaking of discoveries, one of our sources talks about the psychological benefits of getting out of your comfort zone.
That sounds interesting. Tell me more.
So the article says that challenging yourself to do things that make you a little uncomfortable can actually make you more confident and resilient.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And when you apply that to language learning, it means that the more you push yourself to speak, to start conversations, to try new things, the more confident you become.
And that confidence can spread to other parts of your life, too.
It's a ripple effect.
Exactly.
It's amazing how something as simple as ordering a coffee can be so powerful.
Really is. Those little interactions can change the way we see ourselves and the way we connect with the world.
So next time you're in a coffee shop, remember you're not just getting a drink, you're starting an adventure.
Embrace the unknown, challenge yourself, and enjoy the experience. You might be surprised by what you find.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From basic vocabulary and cultural differences to the art of small talk and the power of making mistakes.
It's been a good one.
I'm feeling pretty energized now, ready to conquer any coffee shop in the world.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
And remember, we've just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore, to learn, and to experience.
So to everyone listening, keep practicing, keep trying new things, and keep those coffee cups full.
Yes.
Because the world is out there waiting to be discovered, one conversation at a time.
Beautifully said.
And maybe with a delicious latte in hand.
Always. It's funny, because there's this whole other level of communication happening in coffee shops.
Oh, yeah.
It goes beyond just the words.
You mean like the unspoken rules, all that etiquette stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those unspoken rules can be a little tricky to navigate, especially in a new culture.
Well, one that comes to mind is personal space.
Yeah.
I've been in those packed coffee shops where you're practically sitting on a stranger's lap.
Oh, yeah. Personal space is a big one for sure. It's different everywhere. But in a lot of English-speaking countries, people like to have a bit of breathing room.
So if I'm at a table, I shouldn't be spreading out all my stuff like I own the place.
Exactly. And if you're waiting in line, don't be breathing down someone's neck. Just be mindful of the person in front of you.
Right. It's about being considerate of others.
Yeah.
Even when it's super busy.
Absolutely. What about noise level? Have you noticed how some coffee shops are really loud and others are like super quiet?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's tricky sometimes. You don't want to be that person talking really loudly on their phone when everyone else is whispering.
Right. It's all about reading the room, observe the vibe and adjust accordingly.
So if people are whispering, I should keep my voice down too.
Exactly. And if there's a lot of chatter, then you can relax a bit more.
And if I need to take a phone call, I should probably step outside or find a quieter spot.
Exactly. Just be mindful of the shared space and the people around you. Now, speaking of shared space, let's talk about working or studying in a coffee shop.
Oh, this is a big one. It seems like coffee shops have become like a second office for a lot of people these days.
They really have, but there are definitely some etiquette rules to keep in mind.
Like if you're planning to camp out there for a while, you should probably buy more than just a single coffee.
Yeah, it's kind of a courtesy, you know?
Right.
You don't want to take up a table for hours and only spend a couple of dollars.
Right. What about using laptops and stuff?
Be mindful of the volume on your devices. You know, no one wants to hear your music blasting or your keyboard clicking nonstop.
And if it's crowded, try to be space conscious.
Mm,
Don't spread out all your belongings and take up the whole table.
exactly. It's all about being considerate and sharing the space. Actually, one of our sources mentions a study about the impact of noise on productivity.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Yeah, so apparently certain types of noise, like really loud conversations or sudden bursts of sound, can be super distracting.
Okay.
But consistent low-level background noise, like the sound of the coffee machine or soft music, can actually help people focus and be more creative.
That makes sense. I feel like I get some of my best work done in busy coffee shops.
Right, it's that perfect balance of energy and ambient noise.
So we've covered the spoken rules and the unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, from ordering phrases to cultural nuances and even workspace etiquette. But I'm curious, how does this all go beyond just getting a coffee? How does it connect to the bigger picture of language learning and cultural immersion?
That's a great question. And it's something we often overlook. You know, we get so caught up in memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules that we forget the real reason we're learning a language.
What do you mean?
It's about connecting with people and experiencing the world in a new way.
Yeah, I've definitely had those moments where I've stumbled over words or mispronounced things, but the person I was talking to was so patient and understanding. And in those moments, it wasn't about being perfect, it was about the connection.
Exactly. Those are the moments that make language learning come alive. It's not just about the words, it's about the human interaction, the shared laughter, the cultural exchange.
So how can we encourage our listeners to embrace those moments, to step out of their comfort zones and really dive into the cultural experience?
I think it starts with a shift in mindset. You know, instead of seeing language learning as a chore or a test to pass, see it as an adventure.
I love that.
A way to explore new worlds, connect with different people, expand your horizons.
Like trading in your textbook for a passport.
Exactly. And coffee shops can be the perfect starting point for those adventures. They're like these microcosms of culture where you can observe, interact, and practice your language skills in a safe and welcoming environment.
So instead of just grabbing a coffee to go take a moment to really be there.
Right. Listen to the conversations happening around you. Notice those subtle cues of body language and social interaction.
It's like turning your coffee break into a little research project.
Exactly. And if you feel comfortable, don't be afraid to strike up a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
It could be the barista, someone at another table, or even the person standing in line behind you.
You never know what interesting stories you might hear or what you might learn.
And even if it's just a quick chat, it's still a valuable opportunity to practice your language skills and connect with someone from a different culture.
It's amazing how these seemingly insignificant interactions can actually be so enriching.
It's like each conversation is a window into another world.
So we've talked about the spoken and unspoken rules of coffee shop interactions, the importance of small talk, and how these everyday encounters can deepen our understanding of language and culture.
Yeah.
What else can we offer our listeners to help them navigate this world with confidence?
You know, it's funny. We always talk about fluency, like it's this big goal, you know, like reaching the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more about enjoying the climb itself.
I think you're absolutely right. It's
Yeah.
about those little moments of connection,
Yeah.
Those times when you finally get that pronunciation right or when you have your first real conversation with someone.
It's those moments that make all the hard work worth it. I remember when I was learning Spanish, I was so focused on all the grammar rules and verb tenses.
Right. That I forgot to just enjoy speaking the language.
It's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff, especially when you're first starting out, but we got to remember that language is really all about communication and connecting with people.
I had this experience once in this tiny little cafe in Barcelona.
Oh, yeah?
I was trying to order a café con leche, and I totally butchered the pronunciation.
I bet the barista still knew what you meant, though.
Oh, they did. And they even gave me this little smile and said, "Mi bien." It was such a small thing, but it made me feel so good.
It's those little gestures that make all the difference. They remind us that we're all human. You know, we all make mistakes,
Yeah.
and we're all just trying our best.
It's like this universal language of kindness that goes beyond any grammar mistakes. It's that feeling of, hey, we're both putting in the effort, and that's what matters.
Exactly. And those moments often lead to the most genuine connections.
It makes me think about all the times I've been afraid to speak up in a new language. I've been so worried about sounding silly. But then I remember those encouraging smiles, those patient people, and it gives me the courage to try again.
It really is like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And that goes for confidence, too. Each time you push yourself to speak, to try something new, you're building that confidence muscle.
And those small wins, they add up over time.
They do.
And you start to feel more self-assured, not just in language learning, but in other areas of your life, too.
Absolutely. It's like this ripple effect. You realize you can handle new and unfamiliar situations. It's about embracing the unknown and trusting yourself to figure it out.
And what better place to practice those skills than in a coffee shop, right?
Seriously.
Surrounded by all that energy, all those conversations.
It's the perfect environment to observe, to experiment, to just enjoy the process of learning and growing.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into coffee shop confidence, let's leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
It's not about speaking perfectly. It's about enjoying the journey. It's about those small moments of connection, those awkward stumbles, those unexpected discoveries. It's about trying new things and being okay with being a beginner again.
Well said.
And who knows? You might just find that the best part of the whole journey is the coffee itself.
To stronger coffee and even stronger conversations.
Cheers to that. And to all our listeners out there, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep those coffee cups full, because the world is waiting to be discovered one conversation at a time.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Have you ever been in a conversation where you completely disagree with someone, but you don't want to, cause a scene?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Today we're going to deep dive into the art of agreeing and disagreeing politely in English.
Nice.
Our source material is this really cool script for an instructional video.
Okay, cool.
And it's full of useful tips and tricks, whether you're, learning English or you've been speaking it your whole life.
It's interesting, right? Because even as a native speaker, sometimes those conversations can get really tricky.
Yeah, totally. I mean, how many times have you wanted to just blurt out, "You're wrong," but you can't?
All the time. But yeah, this script emphasizes how direct disagreement can come across as rude in English-speaking cultures.
It's all about saving face and being respectful, right?
Exactly.
So how do we do that? How do we disagree without causing a diplomatic incident?
Well, the script dives into a whole bunch of phrases and strategies.
Okay.
But what I think is most interesting is the psychology behind them.
Ooh, tell me more. So, for example, when it comes to agreeing politely, there's actually a lot of nuance.
Nuance, really. I just say, yeah, I agree.
Right. But sometimes you want to express really strong agreement. Let's say you're brainstorming with colleagues and you want to build on an idea.
Okay, yeah.
So the script gives examples "I couldn't agree more," or "Absolutely, that's a fantastic idea."
Oh, I see.
It's like adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, totally.
But then there are times when you might not be fully on board with an idea, but you don't want to shut down the conversation either.
Right.
And that's where more reserved agreement phrases come in.
Like what? Give me an example.
Things like, "I see your point," or "That's an interesting perspective."
Okay.
You're acknowledging their viewpoint without necessarily, fully endorsing it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's this whole other category of agreement phrases that I think are super interesting.
Okay, what's that?
They're all about agreeing with addition. So it's like saying yes and.
Yes and. Oh, I get it. So you're adding your own perspective to the mix.
Exactly. You could say something like, "That's true, and I'd also add that." Or, "I agree, but have you considered?"
Oh, so it's collaborative.
Exactly.
Instead of just blindly agreeing or disagreeing.
It's about taking that initial idea and building on it together.
I like that. It's very constructive.
Yeah. And it can be especially helpful in situations where you need to be, diplomatic.
Right.
But you still want to contribute your own thoughts.
Okay, so we've talked about the art of agreeing politely, but what about the elephant in the room?
Uh-oh, what's that?
Disagreeing. How do we disagree politely without, starting an argument?
Yes. Well, the script breaks down several strategies for disagreeing politely.
Okay, cool.
And one of the most effective, I think, is the art of softening the blow.
Softening the blow, what does that mean?
It's all about using phrases that acknowledge the other person's perspective before presenting your own.
So instead of just blurting out, "You're wrong," you could say.
You could say something like, I understand your perspective, but,
Okay.
or I see where you're coming from, however. These phrases create a sense of empathy and respect
Gotcha.
before you introduce your differing viewpoint.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like building a bridge instead of putting up a wall.
I like that analogy.
The script gives a great example.
Okay, what is it?
Imagine someone says, everyone should work at the office full time. Instead of just saying, no way.
Yeah.
You could respond with, I understand your perspective, but some people thrive in a remote work environment and are actually more productive at home.
Ah, that's much better. It's more like a conversation starter
Exactly.
instead of just shutting down the conversation.
It's about inviting a deeper discussion.
I like that. And sometimes the best way to disagree politely is by asking questions, right?
Oh yeah, questions are powerful.
So instead of saying, that's ridiculous, you could say,
have you considered? Or what about?
oh, okay, so you're encouraging them to think about it from a different angle?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's say someone says, social media is just a time waster.
Okay, yeah, common complaint these days.
Instead of dismissing their opinion, you could ask, don't you think it can also be a powerful tool for connecting with people and building communities?
Oh, that's good. You're not saying they're wrong, but you're like nudging them to consider a different aspect of it.
Precisely. It's about turning a potential argument into a shared exploration of ideas.
And sometimes that involves suggesting an alternative viewpoint altogether, right?
Right.
So if someone says this movie was terrible, you could respond with,
You could say, that's an interesting point, but I thought the cinematography was breathtaking.
so you're acknowledging their opinion while offering a different perspective.
Exactly.
Like, we might not agree on the plot, but can we at least appreciate the visuals?
Right. It's about finding that common ground, even amidst different opinions.
So it's not just about being polite, it's about understanding like the deeper dynamics of human interaction.
I think so.
This is so fascinating.
It is right.
I feel like I'm already learning so much.
Yeah, me too. It's like we're building a toolbox for navigating those tricky conversational moments.
Speaking of tools, there's one more strategy the script highlights that I think is really interesting.
I get, what is it?
Remaining neutral.
Neutral. So like not taking sides.
Exactly. Sometimes the best approach is to simply acknowledge the validity of both perspectives
Oh, okay, I think.
without necessarily aligning yourself with either one.
That makes sense. But how do you do that without sounding like you're just, dodging the question?
Well, the script provides some helpful phrases like, I'm not sure I agree entirely, but,
Okay.
or that's a valid point, though, I'd argue.
So you're creating space for disagreement without getting overly emotional or taking a firm stance.
Precisely. If someone claims online learning is always better than in-person learning, you could respond with, that's a valid point, though. I'd argue that it depends on the individual and the subject matter.
Right. You're acknowledging their point, but you're also introducing the idea that there might be more to the story.
Yeah, it's a more nuanced approach, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of politeness and some specific strategies for agreeing and disagreeing gracefully.
Right.
But even with all the right phrases, tone and delivery can make or break a conversation, right?
Oh, for sure.
So how do we strike that perfect balance between being assertive and being respectful?
Well, the script goes on to outline 5 key strategies for staying polite, no matter how heated the discussion might get.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with those strategies.
Okay, so the first strategy is all about using positive language. Like instead of saying, you're wrong, which can be kind of confrontational.
Right, yeah, that's never good.
You could try something like, I have a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, I see, that's much softer.
It's about presenting your viewpoint without like invalidating the other person's experience. And this actually ties into the next strategy, which is maintaining a calm tone of voice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, have you ever noticed how when someone starts yelling, it just makes you want to yell back?
Totally.
It's like our instinct is to match their energy.
But yeah, if you can keep your voice calm, and even it can really help de-escalate the situation.
And even though this is an audio-only deep dive, the script also mentions the importance of body language, like making eye contact and keeping an open posture.
Right. Even if you're not face-to-face, like in a phone call or video chat, those nonverbal cues can still come through.
It's about conveying respect and a willingness to listen.
Exactly. But, sometimes I struggle with finding the right words to express disagreement without sounding too harsh.
Oh yeah, me too.
Like, I don't want to be rude, but I also don't want to just back down from my position.
Totally. So what do we do? How do we find that balance?
Well, the script talks about using what they call hedging words.
Hedging words, what are those?
They're words like maybe, perhaps, and a little that can kind of soften your disagreement.
So instead of saying, I disagree with that idea,
Right, which can sound pretty strong.
you could say something like, I'm a little unsure about that idea.
Exactly. It conveys a similar message, but with less force.
So it's like taking the edge off a little bit.
Yeah. And it also makes you sound more open to considering other perspectives.
I like that. But why does that work? Like, what's the psychology behind it?
Well, hedging taps into this psychological principle called saving face.
Saving face.
Yeah, it's all about allowing the other person to, maintain their dignity and avoid feeling cornered.
I see.
By using those softer words, you're basically saying, hey, I respect your opinion, even if I don't fully agree with it.
So it's not just about being polite. It's about understanding the social dynamics of the situation.
Exactly. And that can make a huge difference in how your message is received.
That's really interesting. I'm definitely going to try incorporating more hedging words into my conversations.
I think it's a really useful technique. And speaking of useful techniques, the script also emphasizes the importance of acknowledging the other person's point before disagreeing.
Oh, yeah, that's so important. It shows that you're actually listening and that you respect their opinion even if you don't share it.
Right. It's about validating their perspective before you introduce your own.
So you could say something like, so you're saying that.
Exactly. Or, if I understand correctly, your view is...
It's like you're building a bridge of understanding before you venture into potentially different territory.
Right. And remember, validating someone's perspective doesn't mean that you agree with them.
Right, of course.
It just means that you acknowledge their feelings and understand their point of view.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction.
And that can go a long way in creating a more, open and productive conversation.
Okay, so we've talked about softening the blow, using hedging words, and acknowledging the other person's point.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Well, the last strategy the script mentions is to end on a positive note, even if you haven't, reached complete agreement.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, you don't want to just storm off in a huff.
Right. It's about leaving the door open for further discussion and maintaining a sense of goodwill.
So how do we do that? What are some good phrases to use?
You can say something like, we might have different opinions on this, but I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with me.
Oh, that's nice.
Or, it's been great discussing this with you, even though we don't see eye to eye on everything.
Yeah, I like that. It keeps the conversation from ending on a sour note.
It's about preserving the relationship, even in the midst of differing viewpoints.
Because ultimately, that's what matters most, right?
Exactly. Relationships are more important than always being right.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but how do we put all of this into practice?
Well, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Haha, I love that saying.
The script actually provides some helpful practice scenarios
Oh, cool.
that allow you to, apply these techniques in various situations.
So it's like a chance to test drive all these strategies before you hit the real world.
Exactly. The scenarios cover a variety of situations, ranging from casual conversations with friends to more formal settings like meetings.
Okay, let's try one. Let's say my colleague says, I think we should prioritize work-life balance to improve employee satisfaction and productivity. How would I respond using these techniques?
You could say something like, I couldn't agree more. Prioritizing work-life balance is crucial for both employee well-being and overall team performance.
Okay, so you're expressing strong agreement and reinforcing their point.
Exactly.
Now, what about a scenario where I need to disagree politely with a friend? Let's say my friend says, pineapple on pizza is the best thing ever invented.
Oh boy, a classic debate. In this case, remember the principle of saving face.
Right.
So instead of saying, that's disgusting,
Yeah.
you can use a hedging phrase like, I see what you're saying, but I'm not a huge fan of pineapple on pizza myself.
Yeah, that's much better. It's like you're acknowledging their opinion without making them feel bad.
Right. And you can even add a bit of humor to lighten the mood, like, maybe we should agree to disagree on this one. How about we order half and half?
I love that. It's like, we can still be friends even if we have different pizza preferences.
Exactly. But what about those trickier situations where you have to disagree with someone in like a professional setting?
Oh, yeah. Those can be tough.
Like, let's say you're in a meeting and someone suggests cutting costs by reducing employee training budgets.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Right, because you want to be respectful of their opinion, but you also want to advocate for what you believe is best for the company.
So how do you navigate that?
You could say something like, I understand the need to reduce costs, but I'm concerned that cutting training budgets could impact employee performance and morale in the long run.
Okay, so you're acknowledging their point about cost reduction, but you're also highlighting the potential downsides of cutting training.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, between being honest and being diplomatic.
And having a calm tone of voice like we talked about earlier.
Oh, definitely.
This is all so helpful. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand the art of polite disagreement.
It's a skill that takes practice, but it's definitely worth it.
It's not about avoiding conflict altogether. It's about approaching it with grace and respect, even when things get a little heated.
Yeah, it's like we're learning a new dance.
I like that analogy.
Where we can move gracefully through these disagreements without, stepping on each other's toes.
Exactly. And this deep dive has given us so many moves to practice.
It really has.
It's not just about sounding polite, right?
Right.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels heard and respected, even when, opinions clash.
Well said. And what's really cool about these techniques?
What's that?
They can be applied in pretty much any situation.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, from casual conversations with friends to more formal settings like, business meetings or negotiations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I've been thinking about how these techniques translate to the digital world,
Interesting.
Like, how do we apply these principles to online communication where it's so easy to misinterpret tone and intent?
That's a great question, and it's definitely something to be mindful of because tone and nuance can get lost in, text messages and emails and all that.
Yeah, totally. So what can we do about it?
Well, I think the first step is to be even more mindful of our language when we're communicating online.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like choosing our words carefully, avoiding sarcasm.
Right.
Because things can so easily be taken out of context.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe emojis can play a role too, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like a thoughtful emoji after a statement of disagreement could help to soften the blow.
Exactly. It's about using all the tools at our disposal to communicate effectively.
And remembering that even though we're interacting through a screen, there's still a real person on the other side.
Absolutely.
So as you navigate your next conversation, whether it's online or offline, remember the tools we've explored today.
Right.
Choose your words carefully, listen actively, and approach disagreements with, grace and a genuine desire to understand.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about winning or losing an argument.
Yeah, it's about connecting with each other
Right.
and building stronger relationships.
Exactly.
Well said. That's a great note to end on.
I think so too.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the art of agreeing and disagreeing politely in English.
It's been fun.
Until next time, happy conversing, everyone.
All right, so you've booked that trip, to an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
And you're a little worried about the language barrier.
Of course.
Well, we are diving deep today into essential English phrases for travel to help make your experience so much smoother, more enjoyable. All those little situations that you might find yourself in where you're not sure how to say something or you're worried about,
Yeah, for sure.
misunderstandings.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about all of that today.
Right.
We'll cover airports, hotels, restaurants, shopping, even emergency situations.
Very important.
So this will be really valuable to you.
Yes.
And we're going to give you not just, phrases, but really
Exactly.
examples of how to use them, tips.
And how to feel comfortable using them.
Exactly.
Because that's really the key.
Yes.
Having those phrases at your fingertips can make all the difference. It's not about being fluent.
Yeah.
It's about feeling confident enough to communicate.
Exactly.
To ask for what you need to, get the information you need and really enjoy that travel experience.
Yes. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Okay. You've just landed.
Right.
You're at the airport.
Yeah.
It's busy. Maybe you're a little jet lagged.
Yeah.
A little overwhelmed.
It happens.
And you need to find the check-in counter.
Okay.
So instead of wandering around,
Right.
looking lost,
Looking confused.
you can just confidently walk up and say,
Yes.
I'd like to check in for my flight to, and then your destination.
Exactly. Having that phrase ready,
Yes.
along with your boarding pass and ID,
Of course.
can really just make things so much smoother. And while you're there,
Yeah.
if you're hoping for a specific seat, like a window seat or an aisle seat,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to ask.
Right.
Is it possible to get a window or aisle seat?
It's like magic.
Yeah, it can work wonders.
I can't tell you how many times I've done that. Now, it doesn't always work.
Yeah, of course not.
Airlines sometimes have their own policies.
Right, they do.
But it's always worth asking.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about baggage fees.
Oh, yes.
Because I've had that experience where I get to the counter
Right.
and I'm hit with all these fees that I didn't know about.
It's the worst.
And it's so frustrating.
Yes.
So to avoid that,
Mm-hmm.
you can proactively ask
Exactly.
before you even get to the counter, what is your policy on checked baggage?
Yes, it's so important because those baggage fees, they can really sneak up on you.
Mm-hmm.
They vary so much between airlines and countries,
Yeah.
so it's best to be prepared
Right.
to know what to expect
Exactly.
before you even approach the counter.
Okay, so we've checked in.
Yes,
We've dealt with our baggage.
we're good.
Now we are at security.
All right.
The security line can be a little bit,
Okay, it can be stressful.
stressful, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to remember, liquids, electronics,
Mhm.
shoes, belts.
Exactly.
It's a lot.
It is.
So
Yeah,
instead of trying to remember all the rules,
Yeah.
you can just ask,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
do I need to remove my shoes?
Perfect.
Do I need to remove my belt?
Yes, just ask.
Simple questions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so much better
Yes.
than,
Then guessing
guessing. Yeah.
and potentially getting it wrong.
Or like holding up the line.
Exactly.
Because you're not sure.
Nobody wants to be that person.
Exactly.
So just ask and they'll let you know.
And don't forget to say thank you.
Oh, yes. Always be polite.
Yes.
Little courtesy goes a long way.
It really does.
Especially in a potentially tense situation like airport security.
Yeah. Even if you're feeling stressed,
Mm-hmm.
just be polite.
It makes a difference.
It makes a difference for everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've made it through security.
We're doing well.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Now you need to find your gate.
Right.
And let's say, you're in one of those massive airports
Oh, yeah.
where the gates are like miles apart.
It happens.
You have no idea where you're going.
Right.
Well, the first thing you want to do is check the airport monitors.
Absolutely. They're usually pretty strategically placed throughout the terminal.
Yeah.
So you can get a general sense of where you need to go.
Hmm.
And, before you even approach airport staff for help,
Yeah.
glance at those screens.
Right.
Get an idea of your gate's general direction.
Okay.
That way you can ask a more specific question.
Yeah, because, those airport staff, they're busy.
They have so many passengers to help.
So if you can be, have a little bit of information before you even approach them,
Right.
it makes it so much easier for everyone.
It makes their job easier, and it makes your experience smoother.
So let's say you've checked the monitors.
Yeah.
You still can't find your gate.
You need a little extra help.
Now what?
Now you ask, excuse me, could you tell me how to get to gate and then your gate number?
So you've got that gate number handy.
Exactly.
And again, just being polite.
Yes. Always be polite.
Using that, excuse me.
It goes a long way.
Yeah.
And be specific
Yeah.
instead of just saying, where's my gate?
Yeah,
Give them that gate number.
that's helpful.
It helps them to help you.
Yeah. And there are often maps too.
Oh, yeah. Those airport maps can be lifesavers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're a little confusing.
They can be.
But if you can get your hands on one,
Yeah.
it can really help you to visualize
Hmm.
where you need to go.
Okay. And one last tip for navigating the airport.
Right.
Many airports now have their own apps.
Yes, they do.
Download that app.
It's like having a personal airport guide in your pocket.
Yeah.
You can get maps, real-time flight updates. You
Yeah.
can even find restaurants and shops within the airport.
Amazing.
Super helpful.
Okay. You found your gate.
We're doing great.
You are doing great. But now you're hungry.
Of course.
You need a pre-flight snack or maybe a coffee.
All right, so we're heading to the food court
Right.
or one of those little airport cafes.
Yeah. And those can be a little intimidating.
They can be, especially if you're not sure how to order
Yeah.
or if the menus are in English
Right.
and you're not quite sure what everything is.
Yeah. So let's say you want to get a coffee.
Okay, classic airport coffee.
Right.
So instead of just saying coffee, please,
Yeah. Which could be anything.
right, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Try being a little more specific.
Right.
Could I please get a large latte? Or
Mm-hmm.
can I have a cappuccino with an extra shot of espresso?
Ooh, I like that.
Be specific about what you want,
Yeah.
and it'll make the whole process much smoother.
And then, of course, you've got to have a pastry to go with that coffee.
Oh, of course, those airport pastries, they can be so tempting.
Yeah.
So, if you're eyeing a particular treat,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to just point and say, could I also get that croissant, please?
Perfect.
Sometimes nonverbal communication is just as effective.
Right.
Especially in those situations where you're not quite sure how to say the word.
Okay, so we fueled up.
We're fueled up.
We've got our coffee. We've got our pastry.
Are ready to go.
We are ready for our flight.
Yes.
All right, so we've successfully navigated the airport
We have.
using a few key phrases.
Just a few key phrases.
But that's just the beginning.
Yes.
From here, we'll explore how to master those essential phrases
Exactly.
for transportation, hotels, restaurants,
We got a lot to cover.
and more.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've conquered the airport.
Yes, we have.
Now it's time to tackle transportation.
All right.
So you've landed in a new city.
Yeah.
You're eager to explore.
Mm-hmm.
But first,
Right.
you need to figure out how to get from point A to point B.
Absolutely.
And whether you're taking a taxi
Yeah.
or navigating the public transport system,
Right.
or maybe trying out a ride-sharing service.
Yeah.
Having the right phrases can really make all the difference.
It really can. You know, transportation is often where communication can be the trickiest, especially in a foreign country.
Right.
But
Yeah.
a little preparation goes a long way.
Okay, so let's start with taxis.
All right.
You've just grabbed your luggage.
Okay.
You've stepped outside the arrivals terminal,
Yeah.
and there's a line of taxis waiting.
All right.
What do you do?
So before you even approach a taxi,
Right.
have your destination clearly in mind.
Right.
And if possible,
Yeah.
written down or saved on your phone.
Okay, good tip.
This will just avoid
Yeah.
any confusion or mispronunciations.
Right, especially if you're dealing with like
Exactly.
street names or landmarks that you know
Yeah.
you're not familiar with.
You can't even pronounce.
Yeah.
So yeah, have it written down.
Okay, so you've got your destination.
Yeah.
You approach the taxi driver.
Okay.
What do you say?
A simple, can you take me and then your destination, please? Works every time.
Easy.
And here's a crucial tip,
Okay.
especially if you're unfamiliar with the city.
Yeah?
Always confirm the approximate cost before getting in
Yes.
because you don't want any surprises.
Oh, I've had those surprises.
Yeah, they're not fun.
Not fun at all.
So just to avoid that, you can simply ask, how much will it cost to get to? And then your destination.
Okay.
That way you know what you're getting into.
You can always, maybe negotiate a little bit or
Exactly.
decide if you want to take a different form of transportation.
Right, or find a different taxi.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
All right, taxi situation handled.
we did it.
But now let's say you want to try the local bus or train system.
Okay.
You're feeling adventurous.
All right.
Want to experience the city like a local.
I love it.
But it can be a little daunting,
It can be.
especially if you don't know the routes or the schedules.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what do you do?
Well, a little pre-trip research goes a long way.
Oh, always.
Yes. So many cities now have excellent websites or apps for their public transportation systems.
So helpful.
So familiarizing yourself with
Yeah.
the routes,
Yeah.
the schedules,
Yeah.
the fare options beforehand can really save you
Yes.
a lot of time and potential headaches,
Okay, so you've done your research.
right?
You have a general idea of the bus or train line you need.
Yeah.
You're standing at the bus stop or the train station.
Okay.
Now what?
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Public transportation staff are usually very helpful, especially with tourists.
They're used to it.
They are.
Yeah.
So if you're unsure if you're on the right platform
Right.
or if a particular bus goes to your destination,
Okay.
just ask, does this bus or train go to? And then your destination.
Simple.
Easy.
Okay, and what about ticket machines?
Oh, yeah.
Those can be intimidating.
They can be, especially if they're in a language you don't understand.
Right, and there are so many buttons and options.
So many options.
Sometimes, yeah.
But most of them have language options.
Oh, okay.
So look for a button or an icon that indicates language settings
Okay,
and switch it to English if available.
right.
If you're still struggling,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to approach a staff member
Right.
and say, could you help me buy a ticket to, and then your destination?
Perfect.
They'll be happy to help.
Okay, now what about transfers?
Oh, transfers.
Because those can be really confusing.
They can be.
You're on one line, you have to switch to another.
Right.
You're not sure where to go.
Yeah, that's where having a map or a transportation app can be really helpful. But even with those tools,
Yeah.
it's always a good idea to double check with staff.
Okay.
So you can say, do I need to transfer to get to and then your destination?
All right, so you've successfully navigated
We did it.
public transportation.
Yes.
You're feeling like a local.
Blending it.
You've arrived at your hotel,
Right.
bags in tow,
Yeah.
ready to check in,
Time to relax.
freshen up.
Yeah.
And, most hotels have staff who speak English.
They do.
But it's still helpful to have a few key phrases ready.
It can make things so much smoother, more efficient,
Yeah.
especially, when you're tired from traveling.
Right.
You just want to get to your room.
Okay, so you're at the reception desk.
Right.
What's your opening line?
I have a reservation under the name and then your name.
Classic.
And
It works like a charm.
of course, have your confirmation handy.
Yes, either printed or on your phone.
Yes.
Just in case there are any discrepancies.
All right, now what about
Yeah.
special requests?
Okay.
Like if you want a room with a view
Yes,
or extra towels,
absolutely.
is it okay to ask for those things?
Of course, hotels are all about hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make their guests feel comfortable.
Right.
So don't hesitate to politely make your requests.
You could say, if possible, could I have a room with a view?
Okay.
Or would it be possible to get some extra towels?
I love those phrases.
Yeah. If
Possible.
So polite.
Would it be possible?
It just shows respect,
Yes,
and it goes a long way
it really does.
in any cross-cultural interaction.
All right, so you've checked in.
We're in now.
You're settled in your room.
Yeah,
Now it's time to explore the city's culinary scene.
right.
Food is such a big part of the travel experience.
It is.
It's a chance to savor new flavors, immerse yourself in the local culture.
Absolutely.
But ordering food in another language
Yeah,
can be a little intimidating.
it can be.
So let's break it down.
All right, let's do it.
You found a charming little restaurant.
Okay.
You're seated at a table.
Mm-hmm.
The waiter approaches with the menu,
All right.
and you're ready to order.
Yeah.
But the menu's in English,
Okay.
and some of the dishes sound
You have no idea what they are.
a little unfamiliar.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Don't panic.
Okay.
Waiters are there to help you navigate the menu.
Mhm.
So if you're unsure about a particular dish,
Yeah.
just ask, could you please tell me more about this dish?
Okay.
They'll be happy to explain it to you.
And what about dietary restrictions?
Oh, yes.
Because,
Very important.
a lot of people have dietary restrictions these days.
Whether it's vegetarian, vegan,
Allergies.
allergies, exactly.
So how do you communicate that?
It's crucial to communicate those needs up front.
Right.
So you can use phrases like, I'm vegetarian. Do you have any vegetarian options?
Okay.
Or, I have a nut allergy. Could you please tell me which dishes are nut-free?
So important.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
For your safety and for your enjoyment of the meal.
Okay. And sometimes,
Yeah.
you might want to clarify something on the menu.
Right.
Like maybe a dish sounds incredibly spicy,
Yeah.
and you're not sure if you can handle the heat.
Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. You can say something like, is this dish very spicy?
Okay.
It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Yes. Especially when it comes to spicy food.
Especially spicy food.
All right. So you've ordered your meal.
We did it?
You've enjoyed a delicious culinary adventure.
Yes.
You're feeling very satisfied.
Full and happy.
And now it's time to pay the bill.
Okay.
So what's the most polite way to request the check?
When you're ready to pay, you can simply catch the waiter's eye and say, could I have the bill, please?
Okay.
Yeah, easy.
And before you pull out your credit card or your cash,
Yes.
it's always a good idea to ask,
What's that?
do you take credit cards?
Oh, yes, because you don't want to assume
No.
and then be caught in a situation where they only take cash.
Right.
It's always best to check.
Yes. And also tipping customs
Oh, yes.
can vary widely.
Around the world.
Yeah.
So if you're unsure about the tipping etiquette in the country you're visiting,
Right.
a discreet is service included can
Okay.
clarify things for you.
All right. So we have navigated transportation.
We have.
We've checked into our hotel,
Yeah.
and we have enjoyed a delicious meal.
We're doing great.
We are doing great.
Yes.
Feeling like a travel pro yet?
I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But hold on tight,
Okay.
because next we're diving into the exciting world of shopping.
Right.
From bustling markets to charming boutiques.
Let's go.
Okay, so we've tackled transportation, we've checked into our hotel,
Mhm.
and we've even navigated a restaurant menu.
We're on a roll.
We are now get ready for some retail therapy.
All right.
Whether you're browsing those bustling markets
Yeah.
for unique souvenirs or strolling through, those chic boutiques
Mhm.
for the latest fashions shopping in a new country.
Right.
It'd be such a fun experience.
It is. It's a great way to engage with local culture and bring home a piece of your travels.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it can also be a little daunting if you're not sure
right.
how to communicate your needs
Exactly.
or ask about prices.
Yeah. Especially in a foreign language.
Right. So let's start with those
Okay.
vibrant, chaotic,
Yes.
utterly charming markets.
I love a good market.
I love exploring markets when I travel.
Me too.
They're just a sensory overload in the best possible way.
It's so true.
You've got those colorful textiles, exotic spices,
Mhm.
handcrafted jewelry. It's amazing.
Yeah, markets are treasure troves of unique finds.
They are, but they can also be a little overwhelming,
They can be.
especially if you're not sure how to
Right.
navigate the bargaining process or ask about prices.
Yeah, because sometimes there are no price tags.
Right.
And you're kind of left wondering,
Yeah.
how much is this?
Okay, imagine you're weaving through
Right.
that crowded market. You spot the perfect souvenir.
Okay.
Maybe it's a beautiful scarf or a hand-painted ceramic bowl.
I love those.
You pick it up, you admire it, and then you realize
There's no price tag.
there's no price tag.
What do you do?
What do you do?
This is where those essential English phrases come in handy.
Yeah.
Instead of fumbling for words or resorting to, awkward gestures,
Right.
just politely ask, how much is this?
Simple.
Easy.
And what about if you're looking for something specific,
Okay.
but you're not seeing it on display?
Right.
Like you're looking for a particular size.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
a color.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Okay.
Shopkeepers are usually happy to help you find what you're looking for. So
Yeah.
you can try phrases like, do you have this in a smaller or larger size?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you have this in a different color?
Okay.
They might have it in the back, or,
Yeah,
they might be able to order it for you.
And what about trying things on?
Oh, yes. Trying things on is crucial,
Because I
especially for clothing and shoes.
made that mistake
Yeah, we've all been there.
where I buy something and then get home and it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit at all.
Yes.
So always try things on,
Yes.
just to make sure the fit is right before you make that purchase.
So you can just ask,
Yeah.
can I try this on?
Perfect.
Okay.
Easy.
So we've mastered market shopping.
We have.
Now let's move on to those more upscale boutiques or department stores.
Right.
The vibe is definitely different.
It is a little more refined.
Right.
Yeah.
But those essential phrases, they're still your secret weapon
Absolutely.
to a successful shopping experience.
In boutiques or department stores, you'll
Yeah.
often encounter sales assistants
Right.
who are eager to help you find what you're looking for.
Yes.
So don't hesitate to engage them in conversation.
Okay.
Ask for assistance.
What are some good phrases?
If you're looking for something specific,
Yeah.
you can try phrases like, I'm looking for a new dress for a special occasion.
Yeah.
Or, could you help me find a gift for my friend?
Perfect.
Just give them an idea
Yeah.
of what you're looking for.
And then if you need a different size
Right.
or you want to see if something comes in a different color,
You can ask, do
Yeah.
you have this in a size and then your size?
or does this come in any other colors?
Okay.
It's easy.
Shopping bags are full.
Yes.
It's time to shift gears from retail therapy
Right.
to exploring the city.
Okay.
Those iconic landmarks, hidden gems, cultural hotspots,
Sightseeing.
sightseeing.
It's the best.
And this is where those phrases for asking directions, clarifying information,
Right.
navigating transportation
Absolutely.
really come in handy.
Because you're out and about.
Yeah.
You're exploring. You're likely to need those phrases.
Okay, so picture this. You're standing on a bustling street corner.
All right.
You've got a map
Okay.
that seems to have a mind of its own,
I've been there.
and you're trying to find your way to that must-see museum.
Right.
Don't panic.
No,
Locals are often more than happy
they aren't.
to point you in the right direction.
They love to help tourists.
So how do you approach someone for directions?
A polite, excuse me.
Okay.
Could you tell me how to get to, and then the landmark or attraction? Perfect. And then what if,
Yeah.
you're not sure you understood the directions correctly?
Don't be afraid to ask for clarification.
Right.
You could say, could you repeat that, please?
Nope.
Or, I'm not sure I understood. Could you please show me on the map?
Okay, so you're not afraid to ask for help.
No, ask away.
Yeah.
People are generally happy to help.
And what about if you're trying to figure out the best way to get somewhere?
Okay.
Like, should you take the bus,
Yeah.
the train, a taxi?
You can ask, what's the best way to get to, and then the landmark or attraction?
Okay.
Or, is it better to take the bus or the train?
All right, so you've successfully navigated your way
We did it.
to that must-see museum.
Yeah.
You've admired the exhibits.
Yes.
You've soaked up the history and culture.
Mhm.
And now disaster strikes.
Oh, no.
You've lost your wallet.
It's a traveler's worst nightmare.
It is.
But don't worry.
Okay.
Even in stressful situations like this,
Yeah.
knowing the right English phrases can help you get the assistance you need.
Okay, so panic is setting in.
Take a deep breath.
Okay, deep breaths.
Stay calm.
Okay.
And then if you're in a public place,
Mhm.
approach a staff member or someone who looks like they might be able to help.
Right.
And you can say, excuse me, I've lost my wallet. Could you please help me?
Oh.
And be prepared to provide details
Yeah.
about where you think you might have lost it,
Right.
what it looks like.
And then, of course, you need to contact your bank or your credit card company
Absolutely.
to report the loss.
As soon as possible.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From navigating airports and transportation
Yeah.
to ordering food, shopping, sightseeing,
We did it all.
even handling emergencies.
We're prepared for anything.
We are feeling empowered.
I feel empowered.
Me too.
Yeah.
But remember,
Yeah.
language learning is an ongoing journey.
It is.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
Ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace the learning process.
Every interaction
Yeah.
is a chance to learn and grow.
Exactly.
Yes.
So as you embark on your next adventure,
Yes.
remember that language is not just a tool for communication.
Right.
It's a key
It unlocks so many doors.
that unlocks a world of possibilities.
Exactly.
Well said. So, dear listeners,
Yes.
pack your bags, grab your passports,
Mm-hmm.
and don't forget those essential English phrases.
They'll be your best friend.
They will be your trusted companions on your journey,
Absolutely.
helping you navigate the world with confidence and create memories
Yes.
that will last a lifetime.
Beautiful.
Until next time, happy travel.
Happy travels.
All right, welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we're looking at a ton of notes and transcripts from Emma's 6-month journey of learning English.
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. We're to figure out, what worked for her,
Yeah.
what didn't work,
Right.
and most importantly, what you can use from her journey.
Exactly. And I think what's so fascinating is she achieved fluency
Uh-huh.
in just 6 months. And we get to see exactly
Yeah.
how she structured her learning.
So it's like we have a roadmap
Yeah.
to fluency.
Absolutely.
One thing I found really interesting is she uses a lot of tools and resources
Right.
that are really available to everyone. She's doing things like, using Peppa Pig
Oh,
to
yeah.
learn English.
Children's shows are amazing because, they're designed to be understood by children.
Right.
So the pronunciation is clear.
Uh-huh.
The vocabulary is simple.
Yeah.
Engaging storylines. It's a
Yeah.
perfect starting point
Perfect.
when you're learning a language.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think the first thing that's really important
Uh-huh.
is that Emma started with a really clear sense of purpose,
Yes.
a strong why.
Definitely.
It wasn't just like, oh, I want to learn English.
Right.
It was, I want to achieve these specific things.
She had very specific goals in mind. Like she wanted to be able to
Yeah.
nail a job interview,
Uh-huh.
enjoy movies without subtitles, confidently have conversations with native speakers. And I think defining those goals
Yes.
was absolutely crucial because it gave her that motivation to
Yeah.
keep going when it got tough.
Because we all know it gets tough
It does.
when you're learning a language.
Yeah.
Okay, so having a goal is one thing.
Yeah.
But how did she actually go from 0 to fluent in 6 months?
Well, the first thing she did was she strategically assessed her starting point. So she actually took an online English test
Wow.
to figure out, like, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses? This allowed her to really personalize
Right.
and focus on the areas she needed to work on the most.
So it's like creating a really personalized study plan.
A personalized study plan
Yeah.
based on what you need.
That's really smart.
Yeah, and for her, I think she realized that listening and speaking were two of the biggest challenges. So she knew that those were the skills she needed to prioritize. And to do this, she committed to a daily 2-hour learning routine.
2 hours a day.
Yeah, I know it sounds like a lot,
That's intimidating.
but she broke those 2 hours.
Like how?
So she focused on vocabulary building.
yeah.
In the mornings, like she would try to learn 10 new words
In his day.
every single day. Yeah.
Wow.
And then in the evenings, she'd dedicate that time to more active skills like speaking,
Oh, okay.
listening, working on her grammar.
So it's about finding a balance throughout the day.
It's not so much about like having
Yeah.
these huge blocks of time. It's more about that consistency.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get down to like how she actually did it.
Yeah.
So vocabulary.
Yeah.
How did she learn 10 words a day? That seems like a lot.
Yeah, she started by focusing on high frequency words, which are
Okay.
the words that you see most often in everyday conversations.
That makes sense.
Research shows that if you master just the top 1,000
Right.
most frequent words, you can understand
Oh.
a majority of everyday conversations.
Okay, so target those words first.
Absolutely.
That's really smart. But then wouldn't it get boring?
Yeah, it can. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of just memorizing word lists, and that gets really boring.
Staring at flashcards.
Yeah. And so What Emma did
Yeah.
is she used apps like Anki and Quizlet.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, can you just break those down, like
Yeah.
how those techniques actually work?
Anki and Quizlet are based on the principles of active recall and spaced repetition.
Okay, what does that mean?
So active recall basically means that you are actively trying to retrieve information from your memory. So instead of just reading, you're constantly testing yourself.
Yeah.
And that makes your brain work harder to retrieve the information, and that actually helps.
So it's more effort up front,
Yes.
but better retention in the long run.
Exactly. And spaced repetition takes this one step further and actually strategically times your review sessions.
Oh, wow.
So the app will basically remind you to revisit words
Oh, that's a quick.
right when you're about to forget them.
That's so much better than what I used to do, which is just cram the night before the test.
It's way more effective for language learning. And the great thing is
Yeah.
the app does it for you.
It's like having your own personal tutor.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then Emma was using these apps,
Yeah.
but she also got creative with how she learned the words.
Yes. So she didn't just simply memorize the word and the definition. What she would do is she'd create sentences.
Oh.
Sometimes even short stories using the new words. So it's about understanding the meaning in context.
So not just the dictionary definition.
Exactly. She gave a great example, I think it was. Instead of just memorizing the word abundant,
Right.
she would make a sentence, "The forest is abundant with wildlife."
Oh, that's a good one.
So now the word is connected to an image.
Yeah.
It's easier to recall.
That's great. So it makes it less about memorizing facts and more about like
Yes.
really understanding it.
And yeah, creating those meaningful
yeah.
connections.
So speaking of making things interesting, let's talk about listening comprehension. Because I was really surprised by her approach.
What surprised you?
Well, she didn't just jump right into podcasts or, news broadcasts. She started with children's shows like Peppa Pig.
That's a really smart strategy because when you're learning a new language, everything sounds fast, everything sounds unfamiliar.
Yeah.
And so starting with that simpler content like a children's show, it helps you just get used to the sounds, the rhythm without feeling overwhelmed.
So you're building a really good foundation. And then did she progress from there?
She did. So she started with the children's shows and then moved on to beginner-friendly podcasts.
Like what?
Like ESL Pod.
Okay.
And she also did this cool thing where she listened to audiobooks while reading the physical book.
Oh, wow. That's great for pronunciation, too.
Yeah, it's like
Comprehension.
reinforcing that,
Yeah.
the multi-sensory approach. But I think what was really impressive is she started using this technique called shadowing.
Ooh, what is that? I've heard of that.
So basically, you're listening to a native speaker and you're trying to repeat what they're saying.
In real time.
In real time. You're trying to copy their pronunciation.
Wow.
Rhythm, intonation, everything.
Oh, that's really interesting. So she would use like podcasts for this.
Podcasts, audiobooks, even like scenes from her favorite movies.
Okay, so it can be anything.
It can be anything. The key is just to choose material that's engaging.
Yeah.
And at a level that's challenging but not frustrating.
So you have to find that sweet spot.
Yes, exactly. And it's not just about pronunciation. It also helps with, internalizing grammar, improving your fluency.
So speaking of fluency, let's talk about the speaking.
Yes.
Because I will admit that some of Emma's techniques were a little unconventional.
What do you mean?
Well, she actually talked to herself in the mirror.
Which makes perfect sense.
I know. At first I was like, what? But then I was like,
yeah,
that actually is kind of smart.
It's a safe space to practice speaking without feeling self-conscious. You can just try out different phrases, work on your pronunciation.
Get comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's like your own little personal rehearsal.
Exactly.
Okay. But obviously she didn't just talk to herself.
No, when she was ready to actually interact with other people, she started using language exchange apps like HelloTalk and Tandem.
Those are great.
Yeah, you get
Connect with native speakers.
Connect with native speakers, have real-life conversations.
Right.
And it's great because you can find somebody who's learning your language.
Yeah.
So you can help each other.
So it's win-win.
It's a win-win.
But then she also, I think at some point, did invest in online tutors.
She did. She started using platforms like italki and Reply.
Oh, yeah, those are good.
To get that more personalized feedback and guidance.
So even though she's doing a lot of self-directed learning, she's also like, okay, I need somebody to help me.
Yes, absolutely. That personalized feedback is invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. Because they can see things that you don't see in your own speaking or whatever. But then She also did something which I think is really brave, which is she actually recorded herself
Yes.
giving 1-minute speeches
That's amazing.
on random
It's
topics
such a good way to,
to like practice for public speaking.
yeah, it's like simulating that public speaking
Yeah.
environment so you can analyze your speech, see where you're maybe stumbling, where you're,
Right.
mispronouncing things,
Wow.
and track your progress.
I like that. So it's from talking to herself in the mirror to,
Yes.
language exchanges to even practicing public speaking.
And I think it really just shows that it's about finding what works for you
Yeah,
and being fearless in your practice.
absolutely. All right. So we've talked about vocabulary,
Yeah.
listening and speaking,
Yeah.
but what about the grammar?
Grammar. The sometimes dreaded part of language learning.
Yeah.
But I think what's really cool is
Uh.
Emma's approach to grammar was very much about not memorizing rules,
Right.
but about understanding how to use it in context.
You give me an example.
Yeah, so she talks about how she learned the present perfect tense.
Okay.
And she didn't do it by memorizing like the structure of it.
Right.
She did it by using it in everyday phrases.
Oh.
So she would say things like,
Yeah.
I have lived here for 3 years. Or, I have already eaten breakfast.
Okay. Yeah, that's smart.
So it's not about the rule.
Yeah.
It's about how you use it
Understanding it.
in real life situations.
Okay. But did she use any resources for that?
Of course, she used, the classic
Yeah.
Raymond Murphy's Grammar and Use series.
That's a classic.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And she used online tools like Grammarly.
Oh, yeah. Grammarly's great
It's fantastic.
for getting that instant feedback.
Yeah, and she would actually write every day. She'd
Right.
write short paragraphs, and then she would review those
With a tutor.
with her tutor, get that personalized feedback.
So again, it's that combination.
It is. It's finding that balance
Yes.
between independent learning
Right.
and when to seek out that
The guidance.
guidance.
Okay. So even with all the best resources and techniques,
Yeah,
language learning is a journey,
it is.
and sometimes it's hard.
It can be challenging.
So how did Emma stay motivated?
Well, we're going to dive deeper into that in the next part of our deep dive. We're going to explore how she celebrated small wins,
Okay.
how she tracked her progress, and perhaps most importantly,
Wow.
how she created this immersive English-speaking environment
Okay.
for herself.
I'm looking forward to unpacking that
Me too.
because I think staying motivated is one of the hardest things
Is.
with learning anything, especially a language.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we're talking about all things Emma and her 6-month journey to learning English.
And she did it so fast. I mean, 6 months, that's incredible.
Oh, I know. I was really interested in how resourceful she was with just using everyday things.
Oh, yeah, like those vocabulary building apps we were talking about.
Yeah, the Anki and Quizlet. I mean, I know those are popular,
Mm-hmm.
but are those just for language learning?
No, they're used for all kinds of things.
Like what?
I mean, medical students use them for anatomy.
Wow.
Musicians use them.
For like chord progressions?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So they use that principle of active recall
Okay.
and spaced repetition.
Which is basically just making your brain work harder.
Yeah, you're making your brain work harder to retrieve that information.
Right.
And then it sticks better.
But the best part is the app does it for you.
The app does it for you. You don't have to think about it.
It's like a little robot tutor in your pocket.
Exactly.
But okay, I feel like sometimes studying alone can get kind of lonely. And so it was really interesting to see how Emma used the language exchange apps.
Yeah, because that way you're interacting with other people.
Right. So you're not just like
Exactly.
in your room with your flashcards
By yourself.
like a weirdo.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and you get to have real conversations.
Yeah, like Hello Talk and Tanthem. Those were the two she was using.
Yeah. And those are great because you can connect with somebody
Yeah.
who's learning your language.
Oh, I could find somebody who's learning French.
And then we can like switch back and forth.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
That's cool.
You get to practice, they get to practice.
But I mean, I imagine there were times when Emma was like,
Yeah.
I need help.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Everyone gets to that point
Right.
with language learning where they're like, I'm stuck.
You hit a wall.
Yeah. And so she actually started investing in online tutors.
Okay. So she used italki and Perply,
Mm-hmm.
which I've heard of.
Yeah, they're great platforms
Yeah, those are good.
to find a tutor who can give you that specific feedback.
Right. Because even if you're doing a lot on your own,
Yeah.
sometimes you're just like,
You need that guidance.
I need a professional.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was smart. But she also did something which I think is really brave.
What was that?
She would record herself giving like 1-minute speeches
Yes.
on random topics.
It's a fantastic strategy.
Like, how did she even come up with that?
I know. But it's so smart because it's like simulating that public speaking environment. And so you can analyze your speech.
Yeah.
You can pinpoint the areas where you're hesitating.
Right. Or like mispronouncing.
Yeah. Or if there's grammar
Yeah.
mistakes that you're consistently making.
That's really cool. It's like having your own
Yeah.
speech analyst. So, okay, from talking to herself in the mirror to, the language exchange
Yeah.
to even practicing public speaking.
She really put herself out there,
She did. She really put herself out there.
which is so important.
Yeah, you have to be a little brave
I think so.
when you're learning a language.
Be fearless.
Yeah. Okay, but we also have to acknowledge the small victories.
Oh, absolutely. That is crucial
Right.
for language learning, is recognizing those small wins,
I feel like sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in,
what you haven't achieved.
yeah, like, oh, I'm not fluent yet.
Yeah.
But you have to look back and be like,
Celebrate how far you've come.
yeah.
Whether it's finally understanding a whole podcast episode or mastering a grammar rule that's been tripping you up.
Or like having a real conversation
Yes.
without like totally freezing,
All of those are wins, and you have to celebrate them.
because it helps keep you going.
Absolutely.
Okay, but the thing that really stood out to me
Yeah.
is this idea of creating an immersive English-speaking environment.
Oh, yeah. That's so key.
And it's something we hear a lot about,
We do.
but I feel like Emma really,
She went all in.
she went all in on this.
She did.
She switched her phone settings to English.
English.
She joined online communities.
Yeah.
She was listening to English podcasts in the car.
Yeah.
It's about taking those moments
Yeah, those passive moments.
that you would normally be
Yeah.
like scrolling through Instagram
Exactly.
and turning them into a learning opportunity.
And the more you can surround yourself with the language,
Yeah.
the more it just starts to feel natural.
It becomes less of a thing you're studying and more just like part of your life.
Exactly.
So what surprised you the most about Emma's approach?
Honestly, it's her ability to stay motivated
Yeah.
and consistent
For 6 months.
for 6 months. I
It's
mean,
a long time.
it is. It's a long time to be focusing on one thing.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people start learning a language
Mm-hmm.
and then they give up.
Yeah, they hit that wall and they're like, I'm done.
Right. But she like pushed through it.
She pushed through, and I think it's because she
Yeah.
made it fun.
Right. She didn't make it this like.
This chore,
Yeah.
this like terrible thing.
So it's a reminder that language learning
Mm-hmm.
is a journey, not a race.
It is a journey, and you have to find what works for you.
So we've explored a lot of her techniques
A lot.
and strategies.
It's been really interesting.
It has been. Yeah. It's really interesting to see how she kind of hacked it
Mm.
in 6 months. So what's the key takeaway here?
I think the biggest takeaway is that fluency is within reach.
For anybody.
For anyone, if you're willing to put in the work
Yeah.
and you have the right strategies
And the mindset?
and the mindset,
Yeah. So Emma's story
you
proved.
don't need any magic talent
Right.
or like a fancy,
Expensive program.
expensive program.
It's about consistency
Yeah,
and being strategic.
and believing in yourself.
Absolutely. Okay. So final thought-provoking question.
What's one small action that you can take today
Yes.
to move closer to your own language goals?
Could be anything.
Could be download a language app,
Yeah.
dust off that grammar book you have on your shelf,
Watch a movie
watch a movie.
in English.
Yes, anything.
Anything. Just take one step.
That's all it takes.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep diving deep. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been going through Emma's journey, and I'm just really impressed by
Yeah.
how she made this whole language learning thing, like,
Approachable.
yeah, approachable. Not like these learn a language in 30 days thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, those never work.
They never work. It's just marketing.
Exactly.
It's just a gimmick. But Emma shows us it's about putting in the effort, using the right strategies,
yeah.
but also a lot of like self-awareness.
Being aware of
Yeah.
your strengths and weaknesses.
And one of the things that I thought was really refreshing is that it wasn't about like fancy software or some kind of.
Like, you need to buy this course.
Yeah, exactly. It was about like using resources that are available to everyone.
She used tools that a lot of us already have.
Yeah. I mean, things that maybe our listeners already have.
Right, exactly.
And they just haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah.
So let's zoom back in on this idea of having really clear goals.
Oh, yeah. Crucial.
Because it wasn't just like, I want to learn English.
Oh,
It
no,
was
yeah.
like
Very specific.
specific things.
She had this picture in her mind of what she wanted to achieve.
What does she want to do?
Well, she wanted to nail a job interview.
Oh, yeah.
She wanted to be able to watch movies without subtitles.
And she wanted to be able to confidently talk to native speakers. So these weren't just like vague wishes. They were very specific and tied to real life situations.
So it was almost like she had this mental map
Yeah.
of where she wanted to go.
A roadmap.
And the goals were kind of like her compass.
I love that analogy.
I think that's really important for anybody learning a language,
Yeah, you have to define.
to define
Like,
the,
whys.
Yeah.
How are you doing this?
what's going to happen
Yeah.
if I achieve this. Because we all know
Yes.
it can be hard, and you're going to have days when you're like,
Oh, absolutely.
I don't want to study today.
You lose motivation and
Yeah.
you're like, why am I even doing
It's
this?
those goals that are going to bring you back
Pull you back in.
and be like,
Yeah,
okay, this is why I'm doing it. And also
Yeah.
this idea of celebrating the small wins.
So important.
I think we forget to do that
We do.
sometimes. It's so easy to be like, oh, I'm not fluent yet.
Yeah, you focus on, but like, look how far you've come.
Exactly.
You can understood a whole podcast episode.
Yes.
You finally figured out that grammar rule.
Yeah.
That's been tripping you up.
You had a conversation.
Yes.
And you didn't like completely freeze up.
Those are all wins, and you have to recognize them.
It's like giving yourself a little pat on the back.
Exactly.
Like, good job.
You're doing it.
Keep going. All right. So we can't end this deep dive without
Yeah.
talking more about immersion,
Immersion, yes.
because I think it's something we hear a lot.
it's key.
But Emma really,
She took it to the next level.
she took it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
So what was she doing?
I mean, she was switching her phone settings to English, joining online communities where everyone was speaking English,
Right.
listening to English music and podcasts during her commute. So it's really about
Yeah.
taking those everyday moments and turning them into
A learning.
a learning opportunity.
Oh, it's brilliant. Okay. So as we're wrapping up here,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want our listener to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that fluency is possible
Yeah.
for anyone.
You don't have to be.
It's not this magical ability.
And you don't have to be like a genius.
You just have to be willing to put in
Yeah.
the work, the effort, have the right strategies
And a mindset.
and the right mindset. And I think Emma's story is proof of that.
It is. She didn't have any special advantages. She just
Right.
had a vision,
Yeah.
a plan, and she believed in herself.
Yeah, and that's what got her there.
That's what got her there.
So as you're on your language learning journey,
Yeah,
be kind to yourself.
absolutely.
You know, you're going to have challenges,
You're going to make mistakes.
but that's all part of the process.
That's all part of it.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Find what works for you, celebrate those victories, and remember,
Every journey begins
with one step.
with a single step.
Yeah.
So what will your step be today?
What will you do today to move closer to your goal?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning.
And keep diving deep.
See ya.